Okay, let's unpack this. We are doing a deep dive into Suzanne Collins's The Hunger Games trilogy, and not just the books, but the whole cultural phenomenon. Our mission today is to really treat this as the rich source material it is. We're looking at Panem, this dystopian country that rose from a post-apocalyptic North America. And the setup is so important for you to get right.
Mm.
You've got the super rich, opulent capital ruled by President Snow, and then you have the 12 districts living in total poverty. Katniss Everdeen's home, District 12, is a coal mining region. It's just the definition of extreme polarization.
And what's so fascinating is that the story, it's not just an action spectacle. It's really a powerful allegory for imperial power, for economic exploitation. Collins is using this future setting to talk about some really ugly, timeless themes.
Like what, specifically?
Well, we're talking about survival, morality, the ethics of war, profound poverty and sacrifice. The whole narrative is a social commentary on things like, unchecked capitalism, classism, and just staggering income inequality.
So today, we're peeling back those layers. We're going beyond the arena to see how the story connects to some foundational, real-world issues, like the ethics of conflict. We'll also look at how the franchise used transmedia to make you feel like a citizen of Panem.
And, critically, the really surprising psychological depth of Katniss's journey.
Yeah, let's start there. The origin. Where did this whole idea even come from?
Well, Collins herself said it was this flash of inspiration. She was just flipping channels late one night, and her brain started to blend footage of the Iraq War with the melodrama of a reality TV show.
Wow.
Yeah. And she realized that these two things, real human conflict and this manufactured spectacle, were both being packaged and consumed as entertainment.
That's a heavy concept to tackle for a young adult audience. How does she even begin to explore the ethics of war for that demographic?
She does it by building the whole story around just war theory. It's this ancient idea that tries to figure out when it's morally right to go to war and what's acceptable behavior once you're in one. And in Panem, the district's rebellion is, well, it's clearly grounded in a just cause. They're treated like slave labor, they're starving, they have no basic human rights, and of course they're forced into the games, which is ritualized violence.
And the games themselves? That's not a new idea. She's pulling from history, from mythology, which suggests this kind of spectacle has always been a tool of power.
Precisely. She drew a direct line from Greek mythology, specifically the myth of Theseus.
Right, the Minotaur.
Exactly. The version where Athens had to send 7 boys and 7 girls to Crete as punishment to be devoured. But Collins, she found this alternative and frankly more unsettling interpretation.
Which was what?
That the labyrinth wasn't a labyrinth at all. It was an arena, sometimes called the bull court. And the elite of Crete would place bets on the Athenian kids as they performed these dangerous bull-leaping acts.
So it's not about sacrifice to a god, it's about entertainment for the rich.
That's the DNA of the Hunger Games. The cruelty isn't a side effect, it's the entire point.
And she also pulled from the Roman world, right? I'm thinking of Spartacus.
Absolutely. Spartacus, the gladiator who breaks out of the arena to lead a real rebellion. That's Katniss's exact arc. A person forced to fight for entertainment who becomes a political warrior. The Mockingjay is the Spartacus of Panem.
And this whole political divide is reinforced visually, isn't it? The contrast between the capital and the districts is just so stark.
Oh, constantly. The capital is described as this technologically advanced, majestic place. Glistening buildings, people in bizarre clothes. But if you look closer at the architecture, it's unsettling.
I remember that from the descriptions. The buildings are huge but cold.
Yes, they mix these massive atonal concrete structures, almost like Soviet-era blocks, with this grandiose classical Roman design. It's meant to project overwhelming power, but it has no human scale.
Which is the total opposite of the theme in District 12. Poverty, hunger, short lifespans. Katniss talks about the coal miners with their hunched shoulders and swollen knuckles. They're literally being consumed by their work.
And that leads us right into the capital's methods of control. The surveillance is constant. In the districts, the town squares, the Hall of Justice, they're all built with these identical, imposing concrete structures. They're visual emblems of power.
So even when a peacekeeper isn't physically there, the building itself reminds you that you're being watched.
It's pure Foucault, the panopticon.
Explain that.
The panopticon is an idea for a prison where the cells are arranged around a central watchtower. The guard can see everyone, but the prisoners can't see the guard. So you never know if you're being watched, and you start to police your own behavior.
You internalize the surveillance.
Exactly. The hovercrafts and peacekeepers don't have to be there 24/7. The citizen becomes an object of information, never a subject in communication. You're there to be controlled, not heard.
Okay, this is where it gets really meta for me. How the story itself broke out of the books using transmedia. It's like the Capitol's need for spectacle became the franchise's marketing strategy.
That's a brilliant connection. Yeah, transmedia storytelling just means the story unfolds across a bunch of platforms, books, movies, social media, games. Each piece adds something new to the world.
And Lionsgate, the film studio, was so deliberate about this. Long before the first movie came out, they started positioning you, the audience, as a citizen of Panem.
It wasn't just a marketing campaign. It was like a simulation of citizenship.
Totally. They had official Facebook pages for each district encouraging you to sign up, and the official YouTube channel. It was rebranded as Capital TV Productions.
Oh, I remember that. They released these slick, creepy propaganda videos. It really blurred the line between what was real marketing and what was in-world content.
And it got more interactive, too. There was the Hunger Games Adventures, that mobile game.
Right, the Facebook game.
Yeah. And in it, you could explore places in District 12 we only read about, the Hob, the Seam. But more importantly, that game revealed the very first official map of Panem. It was a huge piece of world building, and it came from a mobile game.
Then the next game, Panem Rising, went even further. It cast you as a member of the rebellion fighting President Snow. So the audience wasn't just a citizen anymore. You were a hero in the war.
And the websites, they really leaned into it. You had to log in with a district ID, and it would have these unsettling messages like, the Capitol is a beacon of perfection. How have you helped polish it? It was total immersion.
Well, the goal of all this, combining a dystopian story with transmedia, it's political. It's trying to get you to see the parallels between this fictional world and our own. Income inequality, political mistrust.
And for some fans, it worked. They moved from just participating in the fandom to what the sources call participatory politics.
This is maybe the most significant legacy of the franchise. That jump from fan culture to real-world action.
Like Ignite the Fight Against Hunger. That was an official charity drive with Feeding America and the World Food Program, using the movie's platform to talk about actual hunger.
And then there was the Odds in Our Favor community, which is all about economic disparity. They organized these rallies where people would hand out stickers of the three-fingered salute.
That iconic symbol of rebellion.
Yes, but they'd hand it out with flyers about real-world economic inequality and the gender pay gap. The symbol crossed over from fiction into activism.
Okay, before we go any further, we have to slow down and talk about Katniss herself. Because the source material is very clear that this isn't a simple hero's journey. It's a story about the devastating personal cost of war.
That's the key. The psychoanalytic studies of the trilogy argue that she doesn't emerge healed. She's a traumatic subject, permanently fractured by what she's been through. For her, survival isn't recovery. It's just a coping mechanism.
And her trauma didn't start in the arena, did it?
No, not at all. It started with her father's death in the mine. She was only 11, and it just shattered her. She says, 5 years later, I still wake up screaming for him to run.
And then her mother just checked out emotionally.
Exactly. Her mother's collapse forced Katniss into this premature caretaker role. It's where her deep mistrust and emotional repression come from. She had to shut down to keep herself and her sister alive.
So she was already carrying all of this trauma before her name was even called at the reaping.
Yes. And her symptoms in the later books align perfectly with clinical PTSD. The first one is intrusion and repetition compulsion.
What does that mean exactly, that the mind forces her to relive the trauma?
Precisely. She has these unspeakable nightmares every single night. Reliving Glimmer's death, Cato's end, Peeta bleeding out. Just the sight of her arena uniform can trigger flashbacks. Her own doctor in Mockingjay calls her a shell-shocked lunatic.
And there's another concept you mentioned, unclaimed experience.
Yeah, that's from the scholar Kathy Carruth. It's the idea that a trauma can be so overwhelming that the mind can't process it in the moment. You see this when she escapes the quarter quell. She's physically safe, but that's when she finally has a complete emotional breakdown. The processing is delayed.
The tracker-jacker venom. The books almost use that as a metaphor for this, don't they? It chemically rewrites memories with fear.
It's a perfect metaphor.
Yeah.
It makes the memory impossible to process rationally because it's fused with pure terror.
And all this leads to hyperarousal, being constantly on edge.
Her nervous system is just stuck in survival mode. She can never relax. There's that moment in the forest where she's safe with Peeta, but she still flinches and reaches for a weapon at the slightest sound.
And her anger. that explosive irritability.
A classic symptom. It's all that suppressed trauma lashing out. Sometimes she just freezes. During a bombing, she has a startle reaction and can't move. Her survival instincts are so overloaded, they just shut down.
And then there's the guilt, the crushing weight of survivor's guilt.
It defines her. The responsibility she feels for surviving when others, especially Rue and Prim, didn't. It's palpable.
There's that chilling line when she's walking through the ruins of District 12, seeing the skeletons.
I killed you, she thinks. And you. And you. She blames herself for the entire war because her small act of defiance in the first games was the spark that ignited everything.
And some sources even link this to identification with the aggressor, that she starts to adopt the capital's own ruthlessness as a way to cope.
Which brings us full circle, back to the just war debate that Collins set up. Gale and Peeta really represent the two sides of that debate.
Gale is for total war, violent, immediate revolution.
He represents the jus ad bellum, the right to go to war. He believes their cause is so just that any means are acceptable.
And Peeta, the baker, the life giver, he represents diplomacy and peace.
He represents the just post bellum, the need for reconciliation and peace after the conflict is over.
It's so easy to paint Gale as the extremist, but given what the Capitol did, his response is pretty logical, isn't it? If terrifying.
It is. Collins makes both choices deeply human and deeply flawed. And Katniss's ultimate choice of partner reflects her struggle to find a nonviolent path. But it's not simple. Her final act to end the games for good is the assassination of President Coin.
So she chooses peace, but she has to achieve it through one last morally gray act of violence.
Exactly. Collins forces you, the reader, to confront that. What is a just war? And what are you allowed to do to win one, especially against a truly evil enemy? There are no easy answers.
So what does this all mean for us? This deep dive shows that the trilogy is so much more than an adventure story. It's a sophisticated critique of wealth inequality, political control, and the lasting human cost of war.
And the central finding has to be that Katniss's story ends in endurance, not recovery. The trauma permanently reshapes who she is. Even in the epilogue, years later, she's still waking up screaming from nightmares of mutts and lost children. It's one of the most honest depictions of post-war life I've ever read in young adult fiction.
That is a powerful and really somber takeaway. So for our final thought, let's go back to Plutarch Heavensbee. He references the Roman idea of panem senses, bread and circuses.
The idea that you can control a population by keeping them fed and entertained.
Right. Keep them distracted with spectacle and they'll give up their political power. That concept is the engine of the Hunger Games.
It is.
So the final provocative thought for you to consider is this. Collins showed how spectacle and entertainment can be a lethal weapon in the hands of the powerful. So in our age, an age of infinite media, constant scrolling, endless distraction, how does that foundational idea apply to the world you live in today? Food and entertainment as a lethal weapon. Something to think about.